So,
I had not seen that, so thank you.
So real fast, okay, their new medication they invented, you guys know what Suboxone is, buprenorphine, right, is used to treat, it was really only for opioid detox. It's a great detox drug, but you can't make any money detoxing people, so they turn it into a maintenance drug. So the Suboxone that's available right now, the strips and the pills, they break down very, very slowly, right? They're time released, right? You want to guess what the Sacklers have as their new invention? Because remember, you can't trademark a drug that's already there, but you can change and patent the delivery system. So what is the magical new invention the Sacklers came up with?
Nasal spray?
Oh, worse than that. Instant release Suboxone. Remember, you understand that addiction ties into instant release mechanisms. People that abuse Adderall do not want time release Adderall. People that abuse pain pills do not want time release pain pills. They are less euphoric. So what they've done is they've created the most euphoric drug you can get to replace the drug that you got addicted to. As if that was the problem with treating drug addiction. You follow what I'm saying? And it's a privately held company, right? And I understand the idea that people want to make money, right? What I don't understand is you are already worth billions of dollars, okay? I'm a smart guy. You can't eat any better. You can't dress any better. You can't live any better. You can't do anything any better. At a certain point of wealth, all you can do is just have more shit. So you can have 30 houses instead of 10. You can have 5 airplanes instead of 4. I mean, at a point, I just don't understand this. Like I told you, I consider myself a very smart person. I don't understand why you would do this. Can we all kind of agree on that? Yeah. It's unnecessary, right? And so part of their lawsuit that they got, they actually began to talk about, how do they basically make amends for the damage they've done. And one of their proposals to the people that are suing them is to offer free instant release Suboxone 30-day prescriptions to anybody that wants it. Why is that a horrible, I'm sorry for swearing, horrible fucking idea to a person that's got an oxy addiction or a heroin addiction? Why is me offering you a free 30-day supply of instant release Suboxone Schedule 3 narcotic a bad idea for treating your addiction?
Addicted to that?
Yeah, and then what are you going to do? Go back to your doctor for more. Can you imagine a guy selling you heroin on the streets and go, your first 30 days worth of heroin are free, and after that, you'll be fine. No, you're going to be coming back to see me again. You aren't my friend. That's not a friendly thing to do. Is that making sense? So I'm going to try to use this whiteboard properly, I think.
The little square, yeah,
So right
that'll
down-
shrink it.
That one right there?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we're going to shrink that down. We're going to change over the PowerPoint. Any comments or questions so far? Is this helpful? Okay. So we're going to talk about Addiction 101. We talk about it being a disease, and it meets criteria. It's got symptoms, and it's treatable. That's why it's a disease. It's got physical, mental, and spiritual symptoms, right? Physical symptoms, financial symptoms, legal symptoms. See, the flu is very easy to treat. It only has physical symptoms. Addiction is very difficult to treat because it's got physical, mental, spiritual, financial, legal, all kinds of symptoms going on simultaneously. Let's just do this kind of quickly. What's one physical symptom of addiction? Classic one. Withdrawal. Withdrawal, right? Okay. Withdrawal. And a person, remember, a stage 4 addict, the person that's homeless, doesn't look so good, doesn't smell so good, doesn't dress so good, right? What is a mental symptom of addiction? Anxiety, depression. How about cravings, urges? How about an obsession with the drug? You got a pocket full of heroin and you're a heroin addict. What are you thinking about? Where do I get more heroin, right? And that's no fun, constantly being obsessed with something, right? What about social symptoms of addiction? How does it affect relationships and family and all that kind of stuff?
You want somebody to have
Right? You break promises, you break trust, right? You're unreliable, you ruin family events, right? They kind of get sick of you, you don't look right, you don't talk right. How about financially? How does being an alcoholic or an addict impact a person financially?
to spend all their money to get the drugs.
Thank you, right? So what you do is you got some money in your pocket, you buy your drugs first, then if you have money left over, you pay for your cell phone bill, your rent, or your food. That's when I was at St. Peter's Home for Boys. What pissed me off the most, we had 2 or 3 kids come in within 6 months that were emaciated, which means looked like concentration camp survivors. Do you want to know why they looked that way?
They didn't
Because their parents spent all their money on drugs, and one woman was particularly evil. She would disappear for 2 or 3 days, put a water bottle in the closet, lock him in the closet, and disappear. This kid got no food. He comes to St. Peter's Home for Boys, and this kid is hoarding food and stealing food. You know what I told him? I said, you steal and take as much food as you want. I'm not even worried about that, but I want to promise you something. As long as I'm here, you're never, ever going to go hungry again. He broke into tears. How's that even a fucking thing when a child has no food because their parents choose drugs and alcohol over feeding a kid? Imagine how evil this disease is to break the bond between mother and child. I mean, that is truly sinister. Can we agree on that? Okay. What about with regards to spiritual symptoms of addiction? How does it affect a person's morals and values or beliefs in a higher power?
They aren't there. All they believe in is in God.
Right? They lose their belief in God, or why would God make me this way? You know, there is no God. You know, you can have good morals and values as a man or as a woman, and all of a sudden you begin doing things for drugs we swore we would never do, right? And that affects your self-esteem and your self-confidence, right? We talk about these symptoms. What about legal symptoms of addiction?
You're not in jail.
Why?
Because you're stealing.
Well, why are you stealing?
Drugs.
Drugs are expensive. They don't give them away for free unless you're with the suckers for the first 30 days, right? But besides that, they don't give away drugs for free, right? And so we have all this theft going on, and drugs, possessing them is illegal, right? But here's what's interesting. Oftentimes I've seen, especially with marijuana, I've seen the system do more damage to the person than the drugs have done, right? And think about it. A third DUI is a felony. Can we all agree as professionals that if a guy comes in your office and he has his third DUI, you could feel comfortable saying to that man, sir, you're an alcoholic. That's not a stretch of the imagination, right? So if a judge is sentencing a guy in a third DUI and you know he's an alcoholic, where should you sentence him to?
Rehab.
Rehab. So I tell my clients, because most of my clients are not criminals, they walk into my office and I say, let me ask you an important question. I'm trying to figure out who you are. You only got an hour. Okay, let me ask you a question. If you're not using drugs or alcohol, what are the odds of you being arrested? Most of them say 0. I will guess what? You're not a criminal. Because if you were a criminal, which you're not, what you would say to me is, Raj, even when I'm not drunk or high, I'll break your nose and steal your shit. I'm like, okay, nice to meet you. Therapy session is over, right? Did a study on heroin addicts. Considered like heroin addicts like the lowest of the low, although the crack people would argue with you about that, but that's a disagreement. I don't know. But they said they did a study on heroin addicts, right, to determine criminality. So they got people and they met with people that had not used any heroin or any drugs or alcohol for an entire year. Do you want to guess how much crime those people committed? What percentage of them committed 0 crime for an entire year that were sober from all drugs and alcohol? Previous heroin addicts, 80% committed no crime, which means that only 20% of the people that use heroin are criminals. If you don't like crime, what should you do? Get people off of heroin, right? Cost effective. So is it helpful? Right, because remember, labeling theory, if you meet with people that have a problem with drugs or alcohol and they're in the system, especially when they're younger, they begin to believe their own hype. And I tell them, I go, you ain't no John Dillinger, you ain't no Charles Manson. You're not using drugs or alcohol, you're not going to get arrested. Don't believe your own hype. Labeling theory becomes very, very powerful. Ultimately, this self-fulfilling prophecy. And trust me, I have no adult record. I have an extensive juvenile record. When I got out of a juvenile facility called Children's Village, which is kids' prison, okay, and I went back to school after being arrested at my bus stop by undercover cops with guns. It's kind of embarrassing. And I get out of school and I'm like, hi, Mr. Johnson, I want to date your daughter. And Mr. Johnson said, what to Raj? Get the hell off my property, you criminal. Oh, I'm a criminal. Hey, Raj, you want to go out and hang out? Yeah, sure. Hey, Raj, go punch that guy in the face. You were in Children's Village. You were tough. Boy. So the expectations on me, even from my peers, I behaved as I was labeled, I meet, especially with women. Okay, they're saying women in jail all day long now, right? Used to mean something to go to jail, Your Charles Manson quote. It used to mean something to be crazy in the old days. Nowadays, everybody's crazy, right? Used to mean something to go to jail. Now everybody goes to jail, right? So, young lady got an MIP in West Bloomfield. She was in trouble for that. She was an alcoholic, so her family's very, very wealthy. She drank 2 times on probation for an MIP. You can't go to jail for an MIP, but you can be on probation for an MIP. You violate probation, you go to jail. So she's a senior in high school, and she goes to jail for 30 days. So what happens to a senior in high school that weighs 100 pounds with no gang affiliations, no combat skills, not even a criminal, 30 days in jail, and she gets out? What happens to her?
She's learned how to be a criminal.
And what else? It's even worse than that. That's also true. Guess what? All of her friends don't want to talk to her anymore because now she's the jailbird. She loses her boyfriend, she loses her prom date, she doesn't graduate on time, and she's actively suicidal. And 2 attempts goes to the hospital. Now I have to see her for 2 years to put her back together again. It never had to happen. You guys are intelligent. If a woman who's 18 years old drinks 2 times on MIP probation, what is she telling you? I have an alcohol problem. And a person with an alcohol problem should go where? Not to jail. Why is it the first place we put people? 2.2 million people in jail or in prison, more than any other country in the world, more than China and India combined, and that's no good, right? Okay, and hopefully I'll use this thing correctly. Good, I did. Addiction, it affects everybody. Like a ripple effect in a pond, it ripples out, but it ripples back. The addict, the family, the friends, the school, the neighborhood, the community, back and forth, bi-directional, reciprocal relationship. Is that making sense? The disease model is very important because you can start reducing the criminality mentality. Symptoms untreatable. This is our addiction crisis. This is the real deal. This is the real graph, right, from NIDA, right? Prescription drugs kill more people than all illegal drugs combined. You don't believe me? Why don't you ask Prince? You don't believe me? Why don't you ask Michael Jackson? You don't believe me? Why don't you ask Tom Petty? Tom Petty had a previous heroin addiction. The heroin didn't kill Tom Petty. And most recently, Mac Miller, most likely prescription drug overdose. So nowadays, what's killing all these people is prescription drugs. And by the way, where do prescription drugs come from? And doctors, right? So if you buy drugs from an inner city drug dealer, he says, here's some heroin, buy it from me. I don't give a shit about you. If you don't die, come back and see me again. That's actually a very honest relationship. You go see a guy with a stethoscope and a medical degree and swore an oath to do no harm. He says, I'm going to put you on OxyContin for 30 days, and you're going to be fine. You're like, you sure, Doc? Yeah. And you're having some problems focusing, we'll give you some Adderall for that. But isn't Adderall methamphetamine's cousin? Don't you worry about that. Oh, you can't sleep at night? Let's give you some Ambien. Doesn't Ambien make you do weird stuff at night, like cooking in the middle of the night? Don't worry about that. And before we know it, we have a medication for everything, right? I can't focus, I need Adderall. I got anxiety, I need a Xanax. My knee hurts, I need a Vicodin. You gotta understand, who told you that you needed all these pills? That's part of our society. We see what's happening to prescription drug overdoses. Addiction policies reflect that, okay? So what addiction solutions? Let's prevent stigma. Stigma is very, very important. Stigma produces shame. And here's the sad truth. I did a presentation on stigma. It's on one of my YouTube videos. Is that not only are people with drug and alcohol problems stigmatized, but the people that help them are stigmatized. Huh? Whoa, didn't see that one coming, right? Young kid calls me on the phone. He's 21 years old. He's doing heroin, right? He goes, yeah, all these guys told me to give you a call on the phone, so they say you're a drug counselor. Okay, I'm a drug counselor, MSW, whatever you want to call me on, whatever. My dad asked me, want to ask you a question. Okay, that'll be like an important question, like, what's your method of treatment? How do we start doing this? He goes, are you one of those poor therapists that drives a shitty car? Because my dad says, never take advice from a poor person. I'm like, holy shit, this kid's like all over the place. So I go, I have a different philosophy. Paris Hilton is like really, really rich. I wouldn't take any advice from her. Lindsay Lohan, really, really rich woman. I wouldn't take any advice from her. Isn't that weird? Even the professionals are stigmatized. What kind of car do you drive? Why do you work in this field? Do you have a problem yourself? I'm a recovering person. Is it because you can't get a job anywhere else? Like, this is a real thing. And so you have to understand that the stigma is affecting those, their families, right? And the professionals that work in the field, the first responders, really weird, in the trenches, working in those trenches trying to save people's lives. And we get stigmatized. Why are you doing that? Why that kind of work? Why aren't you a businessman? Why aren't you a professional woman at at a dealership. It's weird. So, addiction and harm reduction, this is very, very important. I'm going to bring this home, okay? So, people are going to tell you nonsense like things don't matter. I'm going to pass this study around. This study meant the world to me. I learned this study in graduate school. It's a study about a bridge. I'm going to basically give you the summary of the study. If I say anything incorrect, I apologize, but there it is right there. So there was a bridge, and it was in Maine, okay? And this bridge was famous for suicides, okay? People going to this bridge, and they were killing themselves, jumping off the bridge, and they were dying, okay? So intelligent people, psychologists and therapists and sociologists said, hey, why don't you put up an 11-foot fence on both sides of this bridge to stop people from killing themselves, right? And ignorant people said, hey, doesn't matter. If someone wants to kill themselves, they're going to climb that 11-foot bridge. Intelligent people said, no, everything matters. It's called target hardening. Did a class on criminology, right? This criminology professor I had at OU was horrible. He was a former correctional guard. He was the meanest guy. He was a big, solid guy, and he was always negative, right? So at the end of the class in the semester, he poo-pooed every idea to make the world a better place. So I'm a pretty good speaker, and I said, Mr. Meehan, Professor Meehan, I have one question for you. Does anything work in stopping crime? Like anything? Anything at all? He goes, yeah, target hardening works. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, if you have a bank and you have a security guard that's armed, the odds of that bank being robbed is less. If you got a door and the door's got an alarm sticker on it, the odds of that house being broken into is less. If you got a house with cameras, even if they're dummy cameras, the odds of that house of getting robbed are less. So target hardening works. So clever monkey, I remember that, right? So we go to target hardening. So they put up this 11-foot fence, right? And guess what happens for suicides? And this happened in 83, okay? So there was, 19 suicides before 1983. They put up this 11-foot fence on this bridge. And how many suicides were there for 20 years on this bridge? 0. That's good, right? The negative people said, aha! But what about the bridges next door? They probably walked a few more miles down the road, right? No increase in suicides. Okay, what about tall buildings, right? Tall buildings nearby, right? No increase in suicides. So when someone is in your office, right, and they're saying, hey man, I'm having some really bad thoughts, I'm really blue right now, and I'm kind of thinking of harming myself. You get a chance to meet with the family and say, hey, mom and dad, let's get rid of all the guns in the house. And then one of those dads will tell you, oh, doesn't matter, he'll use a knife. Yeah, but he probably won't. Because the study came out just recently is that states that have the most access to guns have higher suicide rates. The easier it is to kill yourself, the more likely you are to do it because there's an issue of the impulsivity, right? Our job is to make killing yourself that much harder. Our job is you getting high that much more difficult. When I do an intervention on a guy, we always get his cell phone. So while he's in rehab, we have his cell phone. And what do we do with cell phone? We go through it and delete all the numbers and we give them a new number. And they come out with their grumpy pants on. They say, oh, how can you do this to me? And they say this to mom and dad. I'll find drugs anyway. And I go, I know, you will. But it's going to be a little bit harder, right? And I feel good. See, our job is to make getting high as difficult as possible and our staying sober as easy as possible. And when you have a client that's potentially suicidal, our job is to make his suicide attempts and abilities to commit suicide that much more difficult. Is that making sense? The thing about the remarkable nature of this study is that for 20 years there was no suicides from that bridge. In the corresponding areas, there was no increase as well. Because some people that really were blue and they were thinking about that, walked up to that fence and said, you know what, not today. Yeah, it bought them some time. Same with marijuana. Hey, don't smoke pot right now. Don't say no, not yet. Let's buy some time with people. Is that helpful? So when people say that things don't matter, when it comes to anything target hardening, when people talk about gun legislation, well, if you want to kill somebody, you can always grab a knife and go start stabbing people everywhere. Yeah, you can, but you probably won't. Well, you can always build a bomb. Yeah, you can, but you probably won't. You know what I mean? Everything matters. And so as professionals and as clinicians, This is great information and great news, which means that you can make an impact because everything really does matter. And anything else that you're told is bullshit. It's a myth. And so even the effect of a professional, every person that I meet with that has a drug or alcohol problem, I tell them they're going to get sober, okay? And one person said, you can't tell them that because you don't know that for sure. And I said, yeah, but guess what? Hope springs eternal. And my job is to provide hope. And there is always hope. I'm not going to tell a person they're not going to make it. Every person that I meet with, I'm telling them, you're going to get sober. And the parents begin saying, oh my God, it's not working. I say, you know what? We never lose to addiction. Some of the games going in double or triple overtime, we never lose to addiction. I told one client he was in really, really bad shape and he was acting out in front of his mother. I said, let me tell you something. If you drive a drug overdose, I will chase you down to hell and I'll get you sober there. So you might as well do it here while you're alive. He's like looking at me, I get your point, man. See, we don't lose to addiction. You got to have that emphasis because what you do as a professional creates a prophecy on that person. If you tell them they're not going to make it, they're not going to make it. If you study motivational interviewing therapy, one of the things that was shown, they went to a treatment center and they had this ruse. It was a psychological ruse. They said, okay, we have a special computer software program that determines who stays sober and who doesn't. So they ran everyone's name that came into rehab into this computer program. It wasn't a computer program. They had pile A and they had pile B, completely arbitrary. But every therapist and every person that worked in the treatment center knew who was in pile A was going to make it and who was in pile B and was going to make it. And guess what happened 1 year later? Who had the highest odds of making it? Pile A. Based on a self-fulfilling prophecy of the therapist, their expectations of that person. Because directly, indirectly, overtly, intrinsically, they put this message into their client, you're going to make it. You're going to be able to do this. And then subconsciously, the ones that were in pile B, yeah, it's going to be a long and rough road for you. You know, I'm not sure how you're going to do when you leave here. You have the power of prophecy as a professional, and you must use your powers for good. And if you can't say anything nice, classic 101, don't say nothing at all, right? Or say not yet. Is that fair? So, addiction, we need help. We get that. Last thing I want to do is hand this out. Then we're going to do questions really fast. Is that good time? Is that cool? All right, good. So, stages of change. Most important thing, how do people change, right? So this is very, very important. Guess what? Change. Tony Robbins actually has some good material. You have a client that comes to see you, and the client wants life coaching. The client says to you, I want to be really rich. And you say, what does that even mean? I don't know. I want to be really, really rich. No. Give me a number. Well, I want to be worth $500,000. Okay, good. By what age? By age 40. Now we have a goal to attain, right? I want to lose weight. How much you want to lose? I don't know. When do you want to lose it? I don't know. How do you want to lose it? I don't know. That's not life coaching. So to help people change, we need specificity, okay? And so we talk about this. I want to know what you're going to do. I want to be worth $500,000 by age 40. And now, to help achieve that goal, you have to have what's called action words, okay? Why do you want to have all this money? Good question. You say you want to be rich, but why? Well, you know, keywords. Wealth will make me happier. Okay, that's good. Wealth will make me more charitable. I can influence the world and the environment by helping people that don't have as much as me. I can help people get college scholarships. Wealth will make me more serene because I won't worry about my next paycheck. I won't worry about paying my bills. Wealth will make me more respected. And when you have those key words to your goal, it becomes actionable. Hey, Raj, I want to be sober. What do you mean? I just want to be sober. No. How long do you want to be sober for? 30 days. Great. Why? Because I want to be getting along with my family better. Good. Improved relationships. Improved health. When you have these key words, you tie them into your change, it becomes more likely to happen. Is that making sense? It's got to be specific. It has to be based with action words behind that. You've got to have your own internal mantra. Your internal dialogue is so, so powerful. Is that helpful? So basically, you guys know that the process of change, we've got the pre-contemplative, contemplative, preparation, action, and maintenance. Let's break it down for addiction, right? In the beginning, people get high because they want to. Imagine a kid in high school, someone hands him some weed. Hey, you want to get high? Yeah, I want to get high. Now we're high. Fun and games. The next stage, right? You've been smoking marijuana for a period of time. You have a bad day at school. You say to yourself, you know what? I need to get high, right? After that, what happens? You're smoking marijuana every single day. You wake up in the morning, you begin to feel a little bit uncomfortable, irritable, anxious. You tell yourself, oh my God, I have to get high to feel normal. Yes?
I'm Sarah. If anyone has evening class, feel free if you need to leave.
Yeah, I apologize for going over. I'm sorry.
No, I don't want to go. That's okay.
I'm almost done, I promise
Don't
you.
make
Yes.
us make you.
Yes, okay. Now, all of a sudden, mom shows up, the police show up, somebody shows up, your liver says it's failing you, right? I can't drink anymore. I'm destroying my liver. I can't drink anymore. My wife's going to leave me. I can't drink anymore. I'm on probation, right? After that, you say to yourself, you know what? I won't get high. I trust myself for 24 hours. I won't do it for 24 hours. And the final goal, I always tell my clients, I don't get high. When you go to a party and you're clean and sober, you're 19, 20, 21, someone offers you a beer. If you say, I can't drink, that requires them to ask you a bunch of questions. Why can't you drink? Who's watching you? Are you on probation? Not a good answer. I don't drink. That's empowering. Is that making sense? So punishment and rewards can cause people to change. Those are external. Values help people change because it's internal. If you have clients that you're working with, I recommend doing the mirror exercise. We have the person look into the mirror if they have a drug problem. Look in the mirror and say, please describe what concerns you about your drug problem. If they have a gambling problem, look into the mirror, real small handheld mirror. What concerns you about your gambling problem? Something magical happens when people talk into that mirror looking at themselves. Because some people have been so good at counting other people, when they're talking to you, they're in con mode, right? When they're in front of that mirror, they're only going to be counting themselves. And you'd be surprised how honest the person gets looking into a mirror and saying, if my mom knew about my addiction, she would absolutely kill me. Mom's passed away. My mom would be so dishonored by my heroin usage right now, I can't even tell you. So the mirror exercise is very, very powerful. I've written some books on addiction. I'm giving away free copies if anybody wants them. They're on Amazon.com. It's How to Stop Using Drugs or Alcohol. These copies up here are free for anybody that wants them. I also have my dead packets, people that are very famous that died from abusing drugs and alcohol. We got Tom Petty on here. I had to add Mac Miller to it. There's a guy who was the lead singer of We Came as Romans, a very famous band around here. He also died of an overdose as well. I know his family. It's heartbreaking. So these are some of my tools. I beg you to watch my YouTube videos. I have my own YouTube channel. Everything is free. I have all kinds of good educational videos, including a med talk, a TED talk, a great one on Stockholm Syndrome that I'm very proud of, and a whole bunch of other videos. And so I want to thank you for your time. I want to praise you guys for what you're going to be doing. You guys are going to be healers. You're part of the light. And go out there and heal and help people. And it's all good karma. And it's an honor to be here and spend time with you guys. Thank you.